In today's podcast, you'll learn how and when to use 4 types of determiners in English so that you'll know once and for all how to use the definite article the indefinite articles a and an, and the zero article when no article is needed. Welcome to this grammar-focused episode of
Aprender Inglés with Reza and Craig.
Hello and welcome to the podcast. My name's Craig.
And my name's Reza.
And thanks for listening, especially if you're a new listener. You're very, very welcome. What are we talking about this week, Reza?
Well, boring though it may sound, it's very important.
That's a good start. I'm sure everyone's going to keep listening now.
It actually, I said boring as it may sound, but believe me, it's very interesting and you need to know about it to speak good English. We're talking about the words a, an, the, and my favorite, that one, nothing.
Nothing, the zero. Yeah.
In other words, the definite and indefinite articles.
Now, we have spoken about this area of grammar before, way back in episode 41. To listen to that, go to inglespodcast.com/41. We had a special guest, an ex-colleague, Bea, who joined us for that episode. We laughed a lot. Occasionally, we went off topic and strayed or went off the point of the podcast. It wasn't very focused, although I really enjoyed the episode and it's worth listening to it. The sound quality is not as good as it is today. There's quite a lot of echo. So for those reasons, we've decided to do the same grammar again, but let's try and keep it more focused and more on target.
I also remember about that episode, which was recorded about 10 years ago now. So remember, we've released more than 600 episodes. That was number 41. I remember the post-recording talk with Bea, a fellow connoisseur, about biscuits. She knows her biscuits.
She does know her biscuits.
With a very, very revealing conversation about biscuit tastes with Bea.
So very well worth going back and listening to that episode. And if you are a listener who needs a little bit of extra help and tuition, especially with your grammar, but not exclusively, we can recommend a website called italki.com, and they are sponsoring today's podcast. On the italki platform, you'll find private lessons that are tailored individually to each student, and you have a wide variety of teachers to choose from all different backgrounds, all different levels of experience, all different prices, and all different specialities.
Yes, for example, there's a range of accents. You might fancy an Irish accent like mine, or understandably, you might not. You could go for an English person, an Australian, whatever, you name it. They're all there on italki. Also, you can look into your teacher's specialities, their qualifications, and needless to say, there are different prices according to your budget and what you're looking for. A lot of people want to learn general English, but some people are looking for something very specific. For example, you might be interested in exam preparation, maybe business English is what you need, or maybe ESP, English for specific purposes, science, engineering, academic English. Whatever you need, you'll find it on italki.
And what I really like about the platform is the flexibility, because you're paying by class and there's no weekly or monthly subscription. So if you do try a teacher and you have videos so that you can get an idea of what your teacher will be like. If you're not happy, if there's not that chemistry between yourself and the teacher, you can always change the next lesson and try a different teacher. If this sounds like something you might be interested in, we encourage you to go to the website inglespodcast.com/605 for this episode, where you can sign up for free and you can book your first class. But do remember, when you sign up, use the promotional code INGLES1, which is INGLES1, And when you do that and you pay for your first lesson, you'll get a €5 discount on your first class of at least €10. Once again, that's inglespodcast.com/605 to sign up for free. So let's get to the main focus of today's podcast, the article. What is an article in grammar? What are we talking about here, Reza?
Well, first of all, let's clarify what we're not talking about. An article that you read in a newspaper, a magazine, etc., is not what we're talking about. It's also a type of article, a type of story, an extract from a magazine or paper. We're talking about grammar articles. Articles, in terms of grammar, come before nouns, and they show whether we're talking about something new or not specific, which would be the word a or the word an, or something specific or something that we already know, then you would add the word the, or something in general or abstract when you add nothing, what we call the zero article. No a, no an, no the, nothing. So that's the type of articles that we are talking about today.
So that's a quick summary, and Reza has just given you the meaning of article in grammar in a nutshell. And notice I said in a nutshell, not in nutshell, because nutshell is a countable noun. And that's one situation in which we would use indefinite articles a or an. So when do we use them? We use them with singular countable nouns, like a nutshell, for example. Or we can use the article a or an when we're speaking about something for the first time. For example, I saw a new shop yesterday in the center of town. Another example, I bought a new phone yesterday. So that's the first time I'm speaking about the phone. I haven't mentioned it before. Use a. Another situation in which you'd use it is when the listener, the person listening to you, does not know exactly which one you're talking about. For example, she works in an office near the station. So it's any office. It's not a particular specific office. She just works in an office somewhere.
So that's called the indefinite article because we haven't defined specifically which one. It could be any phone. It could be any office. I haven't said which yet. So we use the word a for most cases, but we sometimes need the word an, although the meaning is the same. So what's the rule? Very simple. Use the word a, although very often the sound is when you actually say it, but let's call it a when we're reading it separately, not as part of a sentence. A goes before a consonant sound. For example, a boy, a girl, a book, a reunion, whatever. And we use the word an before a vowel sound. Not necessarily a letter, but rather the sound. Let me give you an example. University. The first letter is U, right? You think, oh, that's a vowel. So it must be an before a vowel, Reza said. No, I didn't say that. I said before a vowel sound. And the word university begins with the sound y, the same as yes, yellow, etc. So it's not a vowel sound, it's a consonant sound. So we say ah. The reverse can also happen. The word hour, H-O-U-R, in my pronunciation, how would you pronounce that word?
Hour.
Okay. So I
like
say
O-U-R, our family, our job.
So I say hour. So it's spelled with an H. The important thing is we both begin it with a vowel sound, right? Hour. But the first letter is an H, H-O-U-R-E. That's irrelevant. It is the sound. Because it's a silent H, it begins with a vowel sound. So if it's a vowel sound, it's an hour, a university. So those are the ones you got to be careful with. Whenever the word begins with a consonant letter, but it's a vowel sound, or the reverse, when it begins with a vowel letter, but it's a consonant sound. Be careful with those ones.
It's interesting, isn't it? Because an hour, when we say that in connected speech, we'd probably join those two words together and say an hour. It just sounds like one word. An hour. I'll see you in an hour. Also, another interesting point where Reza pointed out that university begins with a U, but not a vowel sound. The word umbrella begins with a U, but it is a vowel sound, so it will be an umbrella. In fluent spoken English, an umbrella. When do we use a or an? There's another area, and that is with all jobs and professions. And this is a mistake I sometimes hear with my students. She's doctor is not correct. It must be a doctor. She's a doctor. She's a doctor. Reza's a teacher. A teacher. So with any profession, use a or an. You have a friend who works in accountancy. He or she is an accountant.
Let's move on to what we call the definite article, the word the. So we use the word the when the noun is specific. In other words, when the listener knows which one you're talking or writing about. It's been mentioned before. So to go back to a previous example, using the word a, we said, I bought a new phone yesterday. That's with a, because I haven't specified which phone. I just said, new phone. But imagine then I add the information. The new Samsung phones are really expensive. The new Samsung phones. So now I'm talking specifically about Samsung phones. Well, they're specific phones. So then I use the word the. The new Samsung phones, those specific phones, they're really expensive.
You can also use the when you're talking about something that's common between both people. For example, can you close the door? It's the door that we can both see. It's the door that's common knowledge. So when something is pretty obvious and you want to specify it, it's not any door, it's the door to this room, for example. Can you close the door? Another use of the is when there's only one of something. For example, any unique object like the sun or the moon, we see it every day, or an institution, for example, the government or the prime minister. So when there's one of something, also you need to use the definite article, the. Although it's curious, Reza, that we don't say the Jupiter or the Mars. They're both planets. There's only one. I wonder why.
I know why.
Tell us.
Because they're a proper noun. A proper noun, for example, Craig, Reza, Valencia, Spain. The name of something, you don't say the Spain, you don't say the Valencia, you don't say the Reza. It's the sun, the moon. There's only one of them, but there are many planets, and the name of one of those planets, the name is Jupiter. So know that.
When else can we use the Reza?
So we also use the word the with things that are common knowledge. For example, imagine I'm talking about our friend who lives near us. I say, where is she? And you say, she's waiting at the bus stop. Well, there are many bus stops in Valencia, but she's our friend. She lives beside us. I presume you mean the bus stop just right outside my door. It's common knowledge. It couldn't be any other bus stop because that is the bus stop that we all use when we get on the bus in this neighborhood. So she's waiting at the bus stop. It's common knowledge which bus stop. Or, I didn't like the film we saw last night. So we both saw the film, so you know what film we're talking about. So the film we saw last night. Or I'm going to the bank. The bank, it's a specific bank.
So it's kind of shared experience. My wife sometimes says to me, Craig, I'm going to the supermarket. So I know which one she's going to because we use the same supermarket. If she had said, I'm going to a supermarket, it could be any supermarket in the area, in the city, I don't know. But when she says it's a specific shared knowledge that we both have. And that's why we use the definite article. Let's take a quick break here because I know you listen to this podcast to take your English to the next level. But what about your speaking? Is your fluency improving? Are you happy with your speaking skills? My conversation course focuses on making you a more confident and more fluent English speaker. You'll join me and a small group of motivated students, and we'll meet on Zoom and have topical discussions, role plays, debates, and presentations that will expand your vocabulary and help you express yourself effectively in English. So be proactive and take the first step towards becoming a confident and fluent English speaker. Send me an email today to craig@inglespodcast.com and I'll send you details of the next online conversation course. Thanks for listening. Now let's get back to the podcast. We can also use the, or we should always use the, with superlatives and ordinal numbers. For example, this is the best solution. Or Aprender Inglés with Reza and Craig is the best podcast on the internet. So best being a superlative, we use the. The most expensive ticket, for example. Or this is the first time I've seen this film. So it's the first time, that's an ordinal number, the first, the second, the third, use the.
I'll tell you what you don't use the word the with, but it's a very common mistake made by Spanish speakers. You don't use the word the with cardinal numbers in English. What's the number on your ticket? So in Spanish, el 25. In English, 25. We don't say the plus 25, but I know in Spanish you say el or la. You put an article with a number. We don't if it's cardinal in English, but we do when it's ordinal, the first, the second, the third.
When's Christmas Day? It's the 25th of December.
We often use the word the with certain groups of people and categories. For example, the elderly, the rich and the poor. So the elderly, old people. The rich and the poor, people who are rich and people who are poor. So when you use an adjective as a noun in English to describe a group of people, you need the word the. The homeless need help. The sick are waiting for a long time in hospitals before they see a doctor these days. So when it's an adjective, but you're using it to describe a group of people, you use the word the. The rich, the poor, the homeless.
So we've looked at the indefinite and the definite article. Let's go to the zero article where no article is necessary before a noun. So don't use an article with plural nouns and uncountable nouns when we're speaking about the general meaning of the noun. For example, you might say books are expensive these days. You're not specifying which books. Books is a countable noun. It has an S. Don't use the article.
Can you practice saying the zero article with us? Practice your pronunciation. Here we go. Can you do it?
Very good. They did that very well, didn't they? Fantastic.
I can say your pronunciation was perfect,
Absolutely perfect.
In other words, say nothing.
Do you take sugar? Not the sugar. Sugar's an uncountable noun. Again, no article. Information is easy to find online. Information is easy to find online. Information is an uncountable noun. No article necessary.
I'm a musician. I love music. I'm talking about music in general, no the. But imagine I walked into Craig's house and he was playing some really nice music. I would say, oh, I really like the music. What is it? Then I'm talking about specific music. That's the one I often hear wrong, music and the music.
Yeah, Spanish speakers have particular problems with the article, understandably, because it's used differently in Spanish. Also, there's no article, use the zero article with abstract nouns when you're talking about general ideas. Freedom is an abstract noun. Freedom! Freedom. Freedom is important, isn't it? So freedom, the abstract noun, no article. Happiness is another abstract noun. Happiness depends on your expectations. If you have low expectations, you'll probably be happy. Life is good. Life in general, nothing specific. Life, an abstract noun. Life is good, but if you make it specific, for example, the life of Elvis Presley or the life of Hemingway, then you need the article because you're specifying which life.
Another classic mistake made by Spanish speakers and others is the used incorrectly with nature. I like being outside because I love nature. No the, because we're talking about an abstract idea of something in general, nature. But for example, if a lion is hungry, it will attack and eat you. Why? It is the nature of lions. That use of the it's the way they are. But if you're talking about that stuff that you see outside your flat, the sea, the mountains, the sky, the sun, nature, no the.
There's also no article, the zero article, when we're using proper nouns. Well, what's a proper nouns? Things like the names of people, cities, countries.
Planets like Jupiter.
Thank you for reminding me. Planets like Jupiter and Mars. Now, there are exceptions with countries, and we'll look at those in a minute. But some examples where you don't need the article, no article is necessary. Paris is a city, isn't it? Emma lives in Paris. No article, not the Paris. I've been to Italy. So again, countries, cities, usually no article. However, think of this. The UK, the US, the Philippines, the Seychelles.
If you say what type of country it is, it's the. Great Britain, no, because you haven't said what type of country it is. So it's no the with Great Britain. France, no the, because you didn't say what type of country it is. But the Republic of France, because you say what type of country it is. Or groups of islands. The Philippines, the Canaries, the Balearics, groups of islands are the as well. Or when you say what type of country. But if you don't say what type of country, no the. China, no the. But the People's Republic of China, the, because People's Republic. If you say what type of country, it's the. If you don't say what type of country, no the, unless it's a group of islands.
So by saying the United States, you're saying that it's a group of states.
United Kingdom, it's a kingdom. The Republic, it's a republic. The Russian Federation, it's a federation. The Soviet Union, blah, 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 it's a union or it's republics, whatever you prefer. You're saying what type. But Russia, no the.
What other examples are there where there's no article necessary? So use the zero article. Well, there's fixed expressions. For example, I'm at work, not at the work. I'm at work, he's at work. Or go to school. We need to go to school when we're young. Or go home. I think you should go home, not go the home or go to the home. Or you could say I'm in bed, not in the bed.
So I tell you what, let's compare using the word the with using nothing. In other words, the zero article. So let's talk about some contrasts. For example, the for a specific building or situation. She is in hospital. There's no the. She is in hospital as a patient. But she is visiting the hospital. She's visiting the building. She's not a patient. So there we would tend to have the word the. So she is in hospital. No the. She's a patient. But she is visiting the hospital. She's visiting the building. She's not a patient.
So as you can see, there are many different rules and guides to when and when not to use these articles. It does get a bit confusing, but another category is geographical names. If we're talking about seas or rivers or mountain ranges or deserts, we'll probably use the. For example, the Thames, the River Thames, the Alps, the Mediterranean Sea, the Himalayas, the Atacama Desert, the Sahara, the Gobi. So what are some difficulties referring to particular nationalities with the article? Well, we know from experience that Spanish speakers tend to overuse the article. So they might say, for example, I'm going to the bed, because in Spanish you would use the article there. However, on the other hand, with some Polish and Russian native speakers, they would not use the article. So instead of saying, I'm sending you an audio recording, you might hear, I'm sending you audio recording. Or yesterday I saw a wonderful film instead of a wonderful film, because it's a singular countable noun. So you have to be aware, depending on what your native language is, how you use the article or don't use the article in your language. Is it different in English? How is it different? Go and listen to the podcast again, look at the show notes, and try to clarify what you should do to get the article correct.
And remember that if something is uncountable, but there's definitely more than one in your language, like advice, you could use the word some. So Spanish people often incorrectly say, I'm going to give you 2 advices, they say. Well, that's wrong. You can't say that.
Or an advice.
Or an advice, yeah. But they want to say un consejo, dos consejos, if you can speak Spanish, but we can't say that in English. So we would say, I'm going to give you some advice. The word some is very useful for uncountable words, but you want to suggest that there's plurality. Yeah, I'm going to give you some advice. Or if you want to count 1, you can say a piece of advice, or a piece of news, a piece of furniture, etc. So a, because it's 1 and it's non-specific, a piece of something.
And just remember, if you're talking about things in general, generally speaking, there's no article. For example, I love chocolate fudge cake in general, but then you can also make it specific by using the article. Have you tried the chocolate fudge cake? Because then it becomes something specific and something special. But now it's your turn to practice your English. We would love to hear ideas from you about a future podcast. So send us a voice message. Remember, you have 90 seconds to record your message. Pay attention to the articles you're using in your message. Make sure you're using them correctly. And you can send us your message by going to speakpipe.com. That's speakpipe.com/Ingles podcast. And there's also a link in the show notes, inglespodcast.com/605. What about emails, Reza?
You could write to either me or Craig. So write to craig@inglespodcast.com or belfastreza@gmail.com.
If you're a Spanish speaker, notice a Spanish speaker, not any particular speaker, just someone who speaks Spanish, a Spanish speaker, and you want to improve your English with free and paid resources, you can visit the Mansion Ingles website, specific website at mansioningles.com. And for paid products, you can browse the online store at store.mansioningles.net.
As always, I'd like to say thank you very much to our Patreon supporters. And they have joined the Patreon program and they've made a donation to the podcast. And as a way of saying thank you, they get instant access to the audio transcriptions of the episodes and the chance to sign up for live Zoom chats to further practice their speaking. If you're interested in signing up, have a look at the link in the show notes. It's patreon.com/Ingles podcast.
Unfortunately, we don't have time to thank all of you lovely people individually who are supporting us, but we will say hello and thank you to our latest Patreon supporter, and that is Sara Fernandez. So thank you very much, Sara, and thank you to everybody who is helping us to continue with this podcast on Patreon.
Craig, what are we going to talk about in next week? In next week's episode.
Next week, we are going to focus on making small talk, which is something I've been focusing on in my conversation classes and with some private students who need to have a bit more confidence, a few more ideas of how to break the ice, start a conversation with someone they don't know very well, and more importantly, keep the conversation going. So small talk is the topic for next Sunday. Thank you for listening today. Have a lovely week ahead. And until next time, it's goodbye from Reza.
And it's bye-bye from Craig.
If you enjoyed this podcast, please tell your friends so that more people can listen. And we remind you that the music is by Pitts and the track is called See You Later.